Hey, how's it going guys? This is Tom from UDS and welcome to our review of Ghosts N Goblins Resurrection, where we'll reveal everything you need to know before you play. If you're a fan of all things video games, make sure to check out our Discord server. And of course, you can always subscribe here for more reviews and features every single week. You're not gonna wanna miss it. Utter the words Ghosts and Goblins to a certain group of gamers, and you're bound to trigger some sort of trauma. Capcom's classic series still has a reputation for being punishingly difficult, even over 35 years after it first released in arcades. While the action platforming adventures of Knight Arthur were pretty prolific back in the 80s and 90s, we actually haven't had a mainline entry in the franchise since the PSP's Ultimate Ghosts and Goblins back in 2006. But fast forward 15 years, and the masochists who have been crying out for more finally have Ghosts N Goblins Resurrection. And what's even more tantalizing is that it's being helmed by Takuro Fujiwara, director of the original 1985 Ghosts N Goblins, who's been brought back into the Capcom fold for the first time since 1996. But will Ghosts N Goblins Resurrection be good enough to kick our pants off, or will it leave us bone dry? Watch on to find out. Firstly, the gameplay, and specifically its brutality, will be instantly familiar to old school fans. Resurrection falls somewhere between a sequel and a remake, reworking classic stages into a new experience to honestly great effect. You still play as Arthur, and you can still expect unforgiving enemies to respawn time and time again to make your blood pressure rise to dangerously high levels. While it is at times preposterously difficult, it very rarely actually feels unfair, and it's easy to see how this get-good take-to gameplay inspired the likes of Dark Souls and Bloodborne. However, there are some innovations that have been added to the traditional formula. This time, levels now expand into branching paths, making things a lot less linear than they were before. This, as well as a slew of new weapons and magic abilities that you can upgrade as you go, gives the experience a bit of an RPG edge. Look, I'm probably stretching the definition of RPG just a little bit, but what I mean is that you get a lot more variety than you might expect, which is pretty cool. With that being said, there still isn't really much of what you could call a story within the roughly 5-hour long playtime. But the assortment of challenges, enemies, and level design still keep it from ever feeling boring. And just like in 85, to get the true ending, you're gonna have to play through the entire bloody thing twice. Only the second run will see you tackle shadow versions of each level, full of remixed enemies and new environmental hazards to endure. While this could be considered a bit of a cheap way to artificially extend the playtime, it isn't absolutely necessary to grind through and offers hardcore fans a nice extra challenge. But speaking of challenge, a feature which has proved kinda divisive among some circles is the inclusion of adjustable difficulty. You can go from the stomach ulcer inducing legendary mode, which is the most akin to the classic experience, all the way down to Page, which grants you unlimited lives and instant revival upon death. Some might argue that these more forgiving modes don't deliver the true Ghosts N Goblins experience, but frankly, I don't have time for that kind of gatekeeping. Accessibility can only be a good thing, and if it allows a generation of younger players to more easily enjoy the game, I say go for it. Plus, as any long-time viewer of this channel will know, I suck at basically every form of game, so anything that makes them a little bit easier is all good with me. What I'm less forgiving of is the new art style. In lieu of the original pixel graphics, we're now given a gloomy marionette-style world, with gangly sprites running around like puppets. While I can see what they were going for, it reminds me a bit too much of early 2010s miniclip Flash games, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Some Flash games are blooming great, it just doesn't have the charm of the original, which is a huge shame. So to wrap up, Ghosts N Goblins Resurrection demonstrates that a classic formula can be revived, one might say resurrected, into something that feels fresh and exciting. Sure, not all the updates hit the mark, but it's still an absolute blast, and without a doubt the most accessible game in the series to date. This makes it a great entry point for new players, while still balancing the hardcore difficulty for those crazy masochistic veterans. But what did you think of Ghosts N Goblins Resurrection? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more video game reviews every single week. My name's been Tom, and I'll see you next time.